Okay, hello again. This is Dolores Cannon with the Metaphysical Hour. And I'll tell you, I almost didn't make it tonight. So I'm hoping I'm not out of breath. I'm trying to catch my breath. I was at my other office that I have in town where I see clients, and I was with a client, and I was so engrossed I completely forgot that, we go live, and it's 15 minutes from in town to my house in the country. So my daughter came bursting into the office and said, "Do you remember you got a show tonight?" So I said, "Oh my goodness." So I had to get in the car and fly down the highway to get here. So I just made it in the door in time. It usually doesn't happen because I keep pretty good track of what I'm doing, what I'm supposed to be doing. But sometimes when you're with a client and it gets intense and I have a lot of work to do, it's easy to let time slip away anyway. And this one today was giving me a lot of information about the earth changes and the things we have to be doing and how, a lot of the turbulence and things that are going to continue. So it was important information that I will probably be using in another book. So I felt I needed to go over with her anyway. But it did say there is going to be some more natural disasters happening, and there will be more man-made, too, with the governments and the wars, so that we are entering this time. I've been told before that we are in the middle of it now, the earth changes and the things that are happening to the consciousness. It's a very important time in history to be alive. And I keep getting more and more information about this. And so that's part of what I was getting today. And, of course, we had to integrate it. It's a lot for a woman to have come out and then not know where it's coming from and why am I saying these things. So anyway, these will be in future shows when I get to the point of talking about earth changes and the new earth and the things that are going to happen in our future. Because I've got many, many things I can talk about. But tonight, I wanted to continue with what I was doing last week. We started on the different lives that people can live. But before I do, let me give out the numbers for anybody who wants to call in. The number for those in the United States is 1-888-268-4313. 1-888-268-4313. Those who are overseas who might want to call in, it's 1-281-419-7697. 1-281-419-7697. Okay. Now, last week I was talking about that it was not always necessary to have reincarnation in a past life in a human body. That we have to experience everything. And last week I went through all the other non-human bodies that you would have to experience, starting with the gaseous forms, and then the earth and rocks, and then going into the plants and the animals, and then the nature spirits that take care of all the plants and the animals. And we were going through all of those different types because everything is alive. Everything has life. Even a rock, it is just vibrating at a different frequency. But that was as far as we got last week, because after you go through all of these types of lives, you must remember this is a school. You come to Earth, to this life, to go to school, to learn lessons. Everything is a lesson. So how are you going to learn these lessons unless you are everything? You have to be everything. You have to know what it's like. You have to experience everything. And some of the things you may not have even thought of, because who would think of such things as being alive? But there are lessons in every form of life that we choose to experience. But after you go through the animals, the plants and the animals, then you evolve to the point that you want to try human life for the first time. Now, when you go into the human life, you also have to be everything. You have to be male and female many, many times. And many people, this is hard for them to accept. I've had some people at lectures will say, no, that's not true. I've always been a man. I've never been anything else. What do you mean I have to be a female? And it's startling for them. You can see how far they have to go. They're in their first little baby steps if they can't even accept the fact that they have to be another sex. But it's because the soul, the spirit, has no sex. It is neutral. And as that, it can be many of these different things. But look at the lessons that a person would learn. What would a person learn by being male life after life after life? They would never understand the female aspect, and vice versa. It's very important to switch sexes every once in a while to experience different types of lives and different types of lessons, and to pay back different types of karma. Because sometimes it can only be done by being the opposite sex, especially if you had caused karma to, say, a man had caused karma to a woman. Maybe the next time around he's going to have to experience being on the other side of that as the woman to see what it was like to pay back to the man. There's a whole lot of this. I'm glad somebody up there keeps track of it on the rules and regulations of how all of this works, because it can get very complicated to keep track of all these records. But to me, this explains a lot of the homosexual problem as we see it as a problem. It's not a problem to them. They're just experiencing something different. But say someone was a man many, many lives, and then suddenly he has to come back as a woman. He doesn't feel right being a woman. And this causes confusion. And, the same other way is vice versa. They've been a woman many, many times, and then they have to be a man the next time. And you hear many people say, I feel like I'm a woman trapped in a man's body. And many of them go so far as to have operations to try to change sexes. Really, this doesn't work in the long run, because in the next time around, they're still going to have to be that woman, the female sex, because they have to learn the lesson gained from that. But I think a lot of the homosexuals have been one sex so many lifetimes, they've gotten so used to it, and now they're having to experience the other side of it, and it's very confusing for them. And I did a lecture at one place, and this one man came up to me who was a homosexual, and he said, thank you for saying that. For the first time, it makes sense. And he says, I have something maybe that I can explain it to people so they will understand. So it doesn't matter. Gender doesn't matter at all. I even had one client who was both sexes. It's just lessons that we have to learn, and we have to experience different types of bodies. As I said, this body is only a suit of clothes anyway, just a costume that you choose to wear at this time in the stage play. The actor, as you are playing, the actor's waiting in the wings, waiting to come on stage to play their parts. This is the costume you're wearing right now. But you have to be male and female many, many times. You have to be rich, you have to be poor. You have to be all of the major religions. You have to have experienced all of them. All of the major religions, all of the different races. You have to have lived on every continent in the world, every country. You have to know what everything is like before you are finished. How are you going to learn everything in one lifetime? You have to experience all of these different things. Have to know what it's like to be the different races and different religions, the different cultures. And by the time you're finished with all of this, there can be no prejudice, or because you will see that you have to be it all. Now suppose if you were against a certain race, or a certain religion? How do you know you weren't that race or that religion in the life before this? Are you definitely maybe going to be that race or religion that you're prejudiced about? If you are persecuting them in this lifetime, that would be perfect karma for you to come back as the very thing that you've been persecuting. That's why you don't have prejudice once you understand the ideas of reincarnation, because you see you have to be everything, or you may have been everything. So there's no sense in trying to judge people, because we are everyone. But you have to live on every continent. You have to be every race, every religion. You have to be rich and poor. You have to be in every circumstance that a human being can be in before you are finished. That's no easy task. That's why it takes many lifetimes. But we're living longer now, and I found that a lot of times people are experiencing many different lessons in one lifetime. They don't have to keep coming back and learning each individual lesson. They can go through many of this in one lifetime. And that's getting us through the school quicker, because this is a school where you cannot skip a grade, but you will have to repeat a grade if you don't pass the tests and learn the lessons. And when you finally get finished, then you're handed your diploma and you've graduated, and you're allowed to go on to the higher realms where there are all different kinds of lessons in those realms too. And as I said, I think I said it one time, is that we were all created at the same time. If I haven't talked about the God source, I know I will eventually on these programs. But we all began with God. God is a huge energy source. He has no personification. Man, in his ignorance, tries to personify God, try to give him a sex, to make him a male. And in some cases, they talk about the female god, the goddesses. But he doesn't have a sex. That's just our problems being human that we try to do this. He is really a huge energy source. So huge that it's impossible for us to even imagine. Because they said without him, if he were to wink out for even a fraction of a second, everything would completely disintegrate. He is the glue that holds everything together. And they said, those of us in metaphysics, our perception of God is a little broader than most. We still can't even possibly conceive of the entire thing. But they said our perception of God is like a tiny thread compared to what it really is. And consider those who don't even have this much perception. Their perception of God is even smaller than a tiny thread. It is just something we can't begin to describe or imagine, because it is literally the glue that holds everything together